All right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Palantir Weekly. We are here today, me and Chris, as always. Sachin cannot be here today, so we're here with Matt Money and Dom. Thank you both for being here. And we've got a lot to talk about. We got Snowflake earnings, we got macro stuff, we have some political stuff with student loans. We also have Palantir's pipeline builder and Lilium videos. There's a lot of stuff to talk about. 40 people already here. Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate everyone who's here. Let's start off with the macro. The Dow dropped 1,000 points. Apparently, there's this hole in Jackson that Jay Powell went to discuss a lot of different things. And he said some stuff that basically pissed off the market. And the S&P also went down about 4%. Let's start off with you, Dom.
Yeah.
What happened today, and can you rationalize what's going to happen in the macro?
Yeah. I mean, I think the reason you had the response of the drop in the NASDAQ and overall in the market is that, through the verbiage, if you read carefully with what Fed Powell said, definitely they're not going to stop till they get inflation down to a more reasonable rate, and they understand they have far to go. Just because we had a couple good jobs reports and other things like that and see a little bit of lower gas prices doesn't mean we have inflation fixed at all. And it's a good thing for the economy in the long term that they're willing to correct what they were in part of messing up and making sure that we continue to have higher rate hikes. So I think the market's figuring out that we probably will get a 75 basis point hit in September. If we don't, and they have another good jobs report and they play it, safe with a 50 point, I honestly think we'll see another little bear rally bounce. But you have a lot of things coming that will impact the macro. You have what we're going to see in Europe with the energy crisis over there and what we're going to see with costs from that perspective. We don't know what Putin has up his plans. We just saw some more attacks and things around the nuclear plants that are over there. So there's a lot of stuff that could even be more of a catalyst that's not even being factored in. But you look at just what we have in the economy right now, we're going to see a housing collapse, I would think, coming up. And we still need more rate hikes to handle the inflation rate to get it down. We're not going to get it to 2% anytime soon, right?
So this was a dead cat bounce is what you're saying, what we saw the past 2 weeks.
Not necessarily.
S&P should be at 360 still, is your point.
I mean, I think that people are excited because things are getting a little bit better, but it's temporary. So I guess you could say dead cat bounce. I mean, there's reasons to be a little positive, but when you look at all the macro and you look at the two bills that were just signed that are going to drive more inflation, the reality is it's going to be a tough sledding and we're going to have to need more rate hikes. The good thing is, if you're like us and long-term investors, you like technology, you're investing in deflationary things like technology stocks, this is a great time to continue. As my man Chris says, DCA. This is a good time, whether you get, Palantir at 8 or you get it at 10 or you get NVIDIA at 160 or 165. This is a time right now that you still have a lot of these technology companies that are 50, 60, 70% off their all-time highs. I would be careful with who you're investing in because you want to make sure that you are, and this is not financial advice, but having companies that are going to be able to weather the storm for more inflationary hits and more rate hikes. So then the market's going to go even more negative on growth stocks that do not have a strong cash balance sheet, clean balance sheet, do not have low debt, do not have high growth revenue, and hitting beat and raises, right? So, this is the time to investing in things like Apple, Microsoft, NVIDIA, all things that we know will weather these storms, and you're going to get them at a very good price and continue to be strong.
Matt, your thoughts on what's going on in the macro?
Yeah, I concur a lot with what Dom had said. I think it's not over. I think where Fed Chair Powell really dove deep in today, which I think is what really impacted the market, was he was sharing how the companies have weathered the storm rather well so far. And I think with what we've seen in terms of earnings and the lightness of, say, light downside issues for the rest of fiscal year 22, and I guess a slight update for 23 from a lot of these companies after Q2 earnings. He feels, I don't want to say vindicated in what he's been doing, but it allows him to kind of show that he can turn up the heat a little bit more on the interest rate to get back to that 2% goal of inflation.
Do you think we get 100?
He needs to. What's that?
Do you think we get 100?
100. Oh, 100 basis point. I don't know. I'm curious to see what the August inflation report will show. I've noticed gas prices coming down a good bit, but in the United States, but I've also seen how wild natural gas prices and fuel prices have gotten in Europe. And the inflation is going absolutely haywire. I mean, I think Germany reported over 30% in July alone, year over year. So they're in a different situation because their energy prices have 10x comparatively to where they were. Maybe not 10x, but it's gone up a substantial piece.
It would be too much of a shock to the market. I mean, if you did, would 100 basis point be better for getting over inflation quicker? Yes. But would it also send us possibly into, there's the tipping point of what you want to call full recession? Most definitely. We know the market's very irrational. If anybody's experienced the last 24 months, it's very irrational. So I think the highest you could see there would be 75.
I think 75 is prudent, just based off of how much we've already seen the housing market slow down, how much housing prices have already come down in key areas. Some areas have yet to really see any price declines, but I've seen a lot of places, and I've heard a lot of people that are familiar on the matter, Redfin going on CNBC and Zillow CEOs going on CNBC saying the places that saw the largest increase in home values are doing the exact opposite now today. Like Idaho, where prices skyrocketed 40% year over year, are now declining 30 odd percent on the same basis just a year later. So I think places that have been impacted so highly, and I think this just goes back to the normalization of what we've been seeing since 2020 to 2021 to now, is just that return to normalcy. And I think it's scaring people, but imagine how happy everyone was in 2020, 2021, when things were fat, dumb, and happy going out of control. You have to return back to the mean. And until we get to that point, it's going to be pain unless you're situated appropriately. But for long-term investors like myself, I invest at least twice a month. Every time I get paid, on the 15th and last day of every month, I shovel as much as I can into the S&P 500 or in my high conviction stocks like Palantir, Rocket Labs, and others. And I'm going to continue to do that.
All right. Well, someone who sold out of all of their Palantir 2 weeks ago and put a bit of that in another company that was up 18% after hours on Wednesday. It goes by the name of Snowflake. Chris, you can tell us your thoughts on the macro and take your, as BCSD calls it, victory lap around Snowflake.
I'm not going to take a victory lap. There's no victory laps in people losing their money, dude. Like, that's just, at the end of the day, there's no victory lap.
You are literally having a game with Adam Bergman on if Palantir or Snowflake performs better every day.
So I did want to bring that up, but let me talk about the macro first, and then I'll go into that. So one of the things that is unfortunate about the way that Jerome Powell has been doing things and the Fed has been doing things, they've been wrong every single time until literally every single time. They said, oh, inflation's transitory. They were wrong. Oh, inflation is not going to go that crazy. They were wrong. They're also wrong about now where they're like, oh, no, we have to keep the pedal to the metal. If they stay in this course of raising 75 basis points in September, they're going to crash the economy to the point where they're going to have to start cutting sooner rather than later. And then it's going to be a much harder slog all the way, to get the economy back up, because now you're going to have to try to stimulate the economy when the markets are jittery, right? So you don't want to overdo these interest rates to the point where you're going to end up seeing a deflationary cycle that now you have to arrest with more stimulus. It's the most retarded thing. So these guys.
So with like the 75, so you think we should not have a 75 basis point rate hike in September?
No, it should be 50. PCE is already starting to show that things are turning. I also want to remind you guys, look at the dollar, right? The dollar strength is not a good thing for the rest of the world. Like, you don't want all the counterparties in the world going bankrupt because everything is done in dollars.
I understand that, but at
So,
the same time,
yeah.
I mean, look at we still have a very high cost on a lot of critical food areas. You know, we still have high cost in housing, and we still haven't addressed how high inflation is overall, and we have a high employment rate, like extremely high jobs right now. So we have to bring
And
it down somehow.
and all those catalysts, you need to give it time. Like, that's the biggest thing. And the takeaway that I got from Jerome Powell was that we are going to be very methodical with the timing. He didn't say, oh yeah, the next time that inflation comes down, we're going to start to pivot right away. No, he said we're going to monitor, and it's going to be like almost a 3 month period where things are going to be down for 3 months. And then we know that we finally broken inflation, right? Which is the way that you should do it. But in order to give yourself that 3 month time, you can't keep doing 75-point rises. Like,
You keep doing it over and over, but
yeah.
I think we're still not fully down yet. I think they will do a 50 base point just because they play it conservative. I think we should have had a 100 base point the last time. But, it's I agree with you. It's a very fine line. But
like I said, you right now they're playing a fine line between controlling inflation and putting the economy into a really deep recession. You don't want to put yourself into a deep recession like Japan did, and then now you're stuck with 10 years of deflation, and you're fighting deflationary forces that are really hard. Believe it or not, the enemy is not inflation. Inflation is easier to control than deflation is. Once deflation takes over, people start losing their jobs. It's like a super cycle of bad that comes along. So I would say right now the best thing that the Fed could do is do 50 and just just do what they're saying. Monitor the situation, and they also just need to. He did the exact right thing by just projecting out, hey, don't get too overly optimistic that we're going to reverse course. Just because PCE came down 1/4, but sometimes you also have to remember, like, don't go crazy with it too, saying we're going to deploy every single firepower that we have to control inflation. That's the only thing we're worried about. If it was me on the other side, I'd probably been like, look, we're going to do our part to control inflation and keep that in line, but we're also not trying to crash the economy and have people lose jobs. Like, the hardest
when the government starts spending hundreds of thousands of dollars every week and or millions, sorry.
I mean, the tuition breaks and the forgiveness, that was stupid. Like, no matter, it's kind of weird to see this whole thing transpire because it's like
that's
the
a
Fed
midterm election ploy.
Yeah, it's definitely trying to buy votes, but here the tragedy of it is that kind of weapon should definitely be saved up. Like, it's like an arrow in your quiver, right? Where you use it during times of recession and depression. Like, when people don't have jobs, that's when you take that arrow out and you fire it saying, you know what? Don't worry about your student loans. We got you. But right now, people are not working and you're like, already, you're on top of it. You're saying, oh, you know what? Even though you could get a job and pay you down your student loans, you don't have to. Don't worry about it. Like, that's the wrong move to make, right? It also sends a bad signal out there. So one of the things that I think that's definitely going to backfire on them, because I know more people are probably pissed off that, one, they had to save money to send their kid to school, spend the money, and then you have a whole subset of people that didn't take out loans that now are like, wait a second, I'm supposed to foot the bill for somebody who went to school, right? So I think they really did step in it with regards to this forgiveness thing. I definitely think that we do need some student loan forgiveness, but you do it when times are bad so that people can, get up, right? You don't do it when times are good. When you do it when times are good, that's a problem. It was the same problem that happened early last year when they sent out stimulus checks when the economy was already on fire. That's what caused the inflation, right?
I'm still waiting for my checks, by the way.
No, you're not going to get them.
You didn't get it,
man? No, he makes money. He makes money. People who make money don't. Like, that was the other thing, too. Like, whatever. I'm not going to go into the income inequality and all that stuff right now. The point is this, that they're literally unleashing arrows that should be saved during downturns, right? So that's what I have to say about macro. I do think that more than likely we're going to have a not so good September, because September has traditionally been a bad month for the market. Right. So anyone who's in the market right now, who's short and medium term, just be on the cautious side on the September months, because you don't typically see good Septembers. But I do think that we end up seeing a rally into the fourth quarter. And, it's a midterm year. Midterm years have traditionally done well for the markets. But I do think September will be a little weak. And then we'll start to see some dovishness start to creep up again in the conversations, because even the Fed knows that there's a little bit of politics that goes into the whole mix of things, and we'll rally into the fourth quarter. And and one of the things that people need to be doing is just keep your eye on those companies that have taken significant hits over the last year and a half, 2 years. And if their price starts to get to an attractive level, don't hesitate to buy towards I think the mid and end of September.
Should the 143 people here sell their Palantir and buy Snowflake?
No. That's the wrong move now, because now you have an undervalued company versus a company that's super overvalued. Like, people were telling me Snowflake is overvalued at 160, and I'm like, no, it's still got a little bit of room to run. Now it's at almost 200. Now this is where you should pause a little bit, right? It already had its run up, right? So I do think right now there is some value proposition in being in Palantir. One of the things I do want to correct one thing really quickly for everyone. I have no problem with Palantir. I am not a Palantir bear. I am a Palantir bear when it comes to their go-to-market strategy and their leadership. I'm critical of their leadership because they're continuously failing at doing things that they promised. The results are now showing that they're failing, and instead of trying to change that, they're doubling down on their failed strategy. So for all the people that are giving me crap on Twitter, like, oh, why are you saying bad things about Palantir? I'm not saying bad things about Palantir. I'm saying bad things about their management. And hopefully they take some notice with their share price being so down, and people on Twitter finally coming out and saying, look, you guys need to change the way you're doing things.
I guess my curiosity is so, can I roll it up? Like you said it very well, but I think in the short term, or that very short way to put it, you're bearish short term on Palantir, but are you long? Like, in the long term, do you view Palantir as a great company?
Matt, and that's the most interesting thing. Their technology is what I'm really bullish with. I still think this could be a 10x, even, believe it or not, a 20x company by 2030. But it's all going to depend on their go-to-market strategy. And that's it. Like I said, it just comes down to how they're going to approach the market, how they're going to do their sales, and then eventually they're able to capitalize on it. Everything that I've seen so far with regards to their product is amazing. Even their engineers, they're really top talented engineers. The problem is the sales are not where it should be, right? The other main problem that I see with Palantir, and this is, I wouldn't say problem, but it's those goddamn F-class shares, right? With those F-class founding shares, you can't even expect a reasonable giant company to come in and buy them out, right? Because at the end of the day, they could just say no, and that's it. There's no end to it. I almost guarantee you right now, if Oracle could bid on Palantir, they would say, "Hey, I have a $30 billion check waiting for you right now."
Matt, you're saying
yeah.
No?
Why do I say no?
I mean, why are you nodding your head no?
Because Karp and Thiel have a long-term vision for the company.
Right, and I totally agree with you. But see, here's the thing. If you're a CEO, you own less than 5% of the company. At the end of the day, the board of directors have a fiduciary responsibility to sell your company, right? If it means that the shareholders are going to get true value out of it, especially in the short term. Look at Twitter, right? No matter how much Agarwal wanted to be like, no, I don't want to sell Twitter, blah, 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 to Elon Musk, board of directors, they could just be replaced by their shareholders.
I think what Chris is saying is that the F shares are preventing that, Matt.
Yeah, exactly.
You're saying that they would never sell it. Correct.
Right.
What Chris is saying is the problem is that prevents any shareholder returns on that ability to do what's right for the shareholders in that
in the short term.
Yeah,
Right.
stopping it.
And it also prevents institutional holders from going in, because you have to remember, institutional holders like, hedge funds, equity funds, they can deploy tons of capital very quickly and force a board change and make things go in a completely different direction. I'll give you a really good example. Cheniere Energy. Cheniere Energy was run by Sharif Suki. Carl Icahn came in. He saw the company was super undervalued. And one of the reasons why was because Suki was not running the company right. So what did he do?
Huge debt.
He was running with huge problems. And he said, look, there's so much opportunity here. What did Carl Icahn do? Bought up a ton of shares, kicked Suki out as CEO, brought in someone that could do it. And then literally LNG right now, which is the ticker symbol, they're doing phenomenal. They literally own the liquefied natural gas market. Unfortunately, because of those F-class shares, Palantir, that can't happen. That's why if you look at the institutional ownership of Palantir is less than 30%, which also means that the price of Palantir is below what the market is. If they didn't have those F-class shares, the market would be valuing this company much, much higher, right? Probably around the $16 to $20 range, believe it or not, because their technology is the bomb. Like literally, and I can tell you right now, Oracle is falling so far behind in their technology that now they're in acquisition mode. They just completed a deal to buy Cerner, right? An EMR system. They have one of the biggest ERP systems in NetSuite. Dude, Palantir is the exact thing that you need. And because they have their tentacles in almost every major company, they have the greatest sales channel that you can imagine. Oracle right now could literally sell Palantir better than most people. And literally they would be, at that point, Snowflake, Databricks, all these other companies, they would start shitting bricks, right?
So Chris, at what point do you buy back in on Palantir? We saw it go under 8. If it goes under 7, do you buy?
The price at this point is not my concern. Honestly, it's not, because you can't
want them to increase the sales force.
Well, not increase the sales force. I want them to be tangible with their go-to-market strategy and show results, right?
But at some level, the price gets ridiculous. Like, and you as a purely numerical guy, you don't even see.
I mean, I haven't necessarily evaluated that fully, to try to value it like, what would be the absolute bottom that I buy? I just don't invest like that. I try to look at the company, what it can grow to, what can it be potential of, and then I buy the company. Now, if it dips below cash and they're still generating free cash flow, sure, that'd be something to think about. But as of right now, my brain isn't like, oh yeah, there's a price target by which I'm going to get Palantir back into Palantir, because that just means that now I have to worry about, well, when am I going to sell it? Am I just sitting on dead money? Even if I get a really good deal on Palantir and they don't change anything on their business model, right? And they keep it the same and it stays like that for 5 years, that means I have no return for 5 years, even though I got it for an undervalued price, right? So
this is where I think differentiates why folks on Twitter and the average retail investor gets so upset with Palantir versus somebody like myself. I'm looking at Palantir to potentially become a company because I know that Palantir, the Foundry, isn't just one application. I know it's an operating system. I've used it. We have over 20 applications that we use on top of Foundry. And when you think about it, people are thinking about it, it's like a single application. It's not. It's when you go onto your Microsoft computer, you're using it to go play games, go on the internet. It's the same exact thing, except the operating system is built around data. So when I think of Karp and Thiel saying, we're not going to sell, we're building the company for the long term, they're looking at it as if they're going to be the next Microsoft or Amazon AWS or just Amazon logistics platform or e-commerce platform. They're building it for 20, 30 years down the road. And what I think people will want to do is that $30 billion offer came in is to sell. But the long-term potential of the organization is, to me, several $100 billion, if not closer to the $1 trillion mark, obviously with inflation and everything included over the coming 10 years or so. I don't think it's difficult to see. I think that Microsoft, to me, is a very, like, I love AWS. I love Microsoft. I use Office 365 quite regularly. But in order to generate reports, in order to get the data that I need, in order to get all that, I use Foundry on a day-to-day basis. And I'm an engineer, so I'm not, trying to shove that in anyone's faces, but Airbus and all the companies that are very engineer, mathematical, data intensive will utilize a platform like Palantir more so than they will a Microsoft. I've tried to pull real-time data in through Excel and through other means, and it's clunky. It breaks. You get errors all the time.
Let's bridge these conversations together here, because I'll be the intermediary between this, because you both bring up great points. And Matt, I didn't know that you've used this, so this is perfect on the data that I pulled from the 3 announcements that we had this week. We had the Lilium case study. There were some things that if you really watch that video several times over, you can get some really good insights. And we can talk about the go-to-market concerns that Chris and myself have. To your point, Amit, you said, well, hey, what price would you add more? I told you guys I would not add anything unless the price got stupid, because I have go-to-market concerns. It's by far my number 1 stock. I still believe thesis is not broken, but I do want to see, I'm not going to just keep pouring everything I have in YOLO and that's it. I'm very smart about being diversified, and there's other companies right now that are executing at a higher level in the short term. But let's look here. I'll share my screen. Does this even let me share my screen with you guys? Yeah. Okay, cool. 1 second here.
Yeah, when you share it, I'll put it up on there.
Yeah. Oh, I gotta go my this is here.
I asked in the chat if anyone bought the dip this week. Let me know. I bought a little bit of the dip. Arshad, he bought 100 shares. That is awesome for you, Arshad. I have cash secured put, so I make it assigned.
It's not going to let me share without closing out the Google Chrome, so I'm not going to do that. So I'll just read off what I have here on the screenshots from the videos. So with the Lilium video, I took screenshots and I'll just read verbatim with the text of the video. With Foundry, Lilium can create a digital twin of their aircrafts as well as their business operations. Sounds a lot like what we have with Airbus and the whole life cycle of what they've done from the aircraft perspective, right? Key thing that came out of that video. Foundry is very powerful for us, but it also comes with an incredibly smart team who are helping with us implementing this. Combined, it is beyond competition. My concern there is exactly what probably Chris is like, you shouldn't need an incredible smart team to deploy this for every single customer. They haven't got to the point where it's not paying millions of dollars for forward deployed engineers, and to be able to, the average mid-market company can just roll up Foundry, get some value, and move on. And then I can build off that, right? Like I've talked to account execs at Palantir, and they're like, oh, well, yeah, we could sell you HyperAuto for, a couple $100,000. But if you need help, then it's actually going to be like 1.2 mil. So that's scale, right? Like, and you can hate at me or whatever in the comments, but that is the importance of scale when you look at selling at the mid-market and enterprise side. You want to get your teeth into getting the developers, getting the IT managers using this product. It seems very hands-on in this use case study. So then they move on and they say, well, with Foundry, we're able to see our flight services, business operations, a digital twin that can model the full supply chain and help us prevent bottlenecks and help our users understand their data. It also helps with manufacturing and all our contractors. Great. So we understand that once this is in and once this is fully implemented, you're not taking this out. This is literally changing how your business operates. But how many customers do you have to get to that you can move this fast and convince them to get their foot in the door that much to where you're doing this, right? No one's going to just fork over $6 million to just go and change off of all the different tools like they're using with Snowflake, with Databricks, with Microsoft, right? So that was the first thing in the Lilium video that jumped out at me. Now onto the technology side that really supports what Chris and Matt were saying about how amazing this is. Starts talking about their chief operating officer saying, well, it helps with our flight patterns to optimize routing. So at any given point in time, every single aircraft produced by Lilium will have its full digital replica fully refined. So we are going to lower costs by our flight patterns, our parts. We're going to be more affordable. We're going to lower OpEx. This is something Snowflake cannot do. Microsoft cannot do. Bottom line, top tier technology. We're building an entire data ecosystem, this is the founder speaking, around our airplanes and service, and we want to use every piece of data and every sensor to generate value for customers. We understand the importance of reliable decision-making at the edge. This was really exciting because then we start going into the video and he says, we're using 3 edge offerings. And you really have to pay attention to the video. And I literally took screenshots with the words in there that they are using edge streaming, edge AI, edge Apollo. Those are 3 different products, to Matt's point. Okay, they're using 3 different products to achieve this capability. And then they're talking about what edge stream does. It allows Lilium to run mission critical data processes unaffected by low cloud connectivity or unstable internet. So think about all the organizations in globally where internet is a issue. Now, granted, Elon's pushing hard to fix that really quick with Starlink, but look at all the areas where you have issues around connectivity and you can still provide top level business results. That is worth paying up for, right? So these are big things that they're solving for, and just in that one video. Then we look into what I was really excited about. They're starting to categorize their YouTube videos on what are offerings, what are developer videos, and what are platforms. So their new offering is personnel resources. It is limited personnel resources is their new offering. And it almost was like a workday. Like this showed the power of looking at Palantir at a whole nother level that we haven't seen. It was literally everything that you'd want like out of a workday.
And that's built on Foundry, correct?
Yes. It's another thing built on Foundry. And so literally I was looking at the video and it was showing like employee files of the person, the trainings they've taken, the accreditations, where are they next in their career path. It literally was building on all of that. And it talks about how they're able to forecast and see problems that are happening, which is employee retention in federal agencies, but not only in federal, in commercial and enterprise. This is the data, the global reset for employees. So it says here verbatim in the video, data is often codified in disparate formats within a web of siloed systems. We all know that. Limiting leaders' visibility into their workforce, making them even the most basic personnel readiness questions, like how many employees are at risk of attrition or who needs additional training. All of these are very difficult to answer. So they're able to take all this fractured data, put it into the personnel pipeline offering, and they're able to help. And then they even give a use case in the video. If you pay attention to it, it says, hey, we helped a federal agency with over 1 million employees help with their retention. And oh, by the way, we did it with our encryption and our sensitive data controls and access controls. And if you listen to CodeStrap's videos, having it where it's security first based coding and platform and what they build security first is something they do better than anyone else, right? We know that from their government days. So that was so exciting to see a whole nother offering. It's so many different uses that can actually go into commercial, federal, and you see the power of Foundry and your imagination starts getting, wow. So if you can retire Workday, you can do, manufacturing and do data. And then we haven't talked about the pipeline builder screenshots. You see the power of the technology. Now, I'll not read all these slides. I've been talking a long time, but in the pipeline builder video, what was discouraging was it was all delivered as a developer or an engineer, architect could only understand. Now, I've been enough in the industry with selling CI/CD pipeline software and containers and all the microservices and all that kind of stuff. I do that for a living, so I understood what they were delivering. But your typical IT manager or person, CIO, who would actually be making a decision or even entertaining a meeting around this, that video would go so far over their head, wouldn't even appeal to them. So the way they delivered the amazing information, what pipeline builder is capable of doing, which is capable of doing a lot and changing the industry and software development, they're not delivering it in a way that it's digestible and is able to get me interested to take your phone call and take your meeting. And that's the difference between Snowflake, Databricks, Microsoft, and others. I'll shut up now. Chris, Matt, feel free to comment if you saw those videos.
Yeah, I'll just say a couple of things. It's great that they said they're doing all this stuff with Lilium, but tell me, how many passenger flights has Lilium had? None. How many successful manned aircraft flights have they had? None. It's great that you're building the infrastructure of tomorrow, but maybe try to figure out how to run your organization so that you will survive for the next 2 years without having to raise capital funds. I get that Palantir will help you do all these things, but dude, I thought that was a fluff piece because you don't have a working product yet. The short report that came out, yeah.
Lilium, I mean, I wouldn't have, if I'm Palantir, I probably wouldn't have put that particular use case out. From a technology side, I was excited to see what the product was capable of helping any company.
Right.
But on the flip side, I would have rather said, okay, let me see Airbus talk about it, or Boeing, or
exactly.
Somebody who I believe will be around in 5 years. So I agree with everything you said there.
Yeah. So that's one of the key problems that I think Palantir is also running into. And this is the thing that kind of makes me pause a little bit also. You always have to look at the counterparties who are using the product, right? I want to see high-level counterparties come out and say that this is a good product and they use it and everything else, and that they've been able to change things around. When they did that PG&E video, that was like a home run for me because that is a great counterparty. They're entrenched everywhere, and if they're saying something, people want to listen. But dude, does anyone even know what the European Credit Agency is? I'm not credit, like cricket thing was. No one cares. Like Lilium, Lilium, right?
They get cricket to get popular in Europe.
Whatever, dude. Like, terrible examples.
This is an example of go-to-market, right?
Yeah.
I get that you have all these different customers, and maybe you only have certain customers that are willing to speak up on the product, but people will start paying attention when you're at the top right of Gartner or the top right of Forrester, and you have Boeing talking about how much they love it, or Coca-Cola saying, hey, we screwed up. We didn't, and we want to go back to them. We're using them now. We love them. All those different things. Who you use and who people pay attention to, what logos you have, matters, like, to what you're saying in the market. And that will get people's attention when they see, like for instance, NVIDIA on their most recent analyst earnings day, they talked about how now they got Amazon Logistics and they're doing all their digital twins for warehouses, or BMW. So, like, when you start name dropping that kind of stuff, it gets people's attention in the industry. Matt, you could speak to that with your experience.
Yeah, I mean, I think where Snowflake, in my opinion, is quicker to move, right? And I think that's going to be their benefit in the short term. And I think, Chris, you're right. I think the share price and where things would go for Snowflake in the short term is going to be great, which is why Palantir is suffering. Because to me, they're focusing more on the product. They're focusing on building out all the different industries that they can get into. I think one of the coolest parts of the presentation that they always show is where in 2012 or so is really when they started their commercial side of the business. They started integrating with companies like mine in 2016, 2017, oil and gas, energy overall. Then you got into aeronautics, and now to the point where they're in over 40 to 45 industries. And what I think is most important that people need to realize, when you get Foundry, you get 4 or 5 applications that come standard, right? Your normal word processing, your normal ability to see time series data, all that stuff that tries to replicate Microsoft Office. But the important piece is the relationship that you build with the clients. And from Palantir perspective, with the companies that you're working with, to say, what problems do you need to solve? And then the custom applications that get built on top of that. Now that you have the access to the 40 or so industries that those special applications have been built for, you can then go and increase your sales force and go to all those different sort of sectors now and have somebody for oil and gas, somebody for aeronauticals, because those applications have been developed. And I think when I look at the Snowflake clientele, I don't see the Coca-Colas. I don't see those big name folks. Whereas the company I work for is pretty big, right? Several $100 billion company. Airbus is a several hundred, I don't know if it's a several hundred, but it's a $100 billion company. You have these big name companies that are utilizing Palantir. And that's what makes me bullish long term. Short term, it will continue to have its hiccups. And I think these small videos just goes to show the array of different products that they're trying to walk before they run and go to market to sell everybody on something. They're trying to make sure that they have the best product, which to me is a Tim Cook strategy, or not a Tim Cook strategy, sorry, Steve Jobs strategy, making sure you have the right product before. If there was too much space, he would throw it in the water, the fish tank, remember? You see the bubbles coming up, he's like, you have more space, you need to shrink it, right? Before you even put the product out. It's something like that. Companies like that are the ones that eventually succeed. Remember Microsoft in the early 2000s when all they focused on?
I disagree with you on the big customer piece, though.
Real quick, before you disagree, let me just give a quick shout out to Gabe. Thank you for the $20 super chat. He is betting anyone 1,000 push-ups the S&P doesn't go below 3,900. So if anyone wants to take that bet in the chat, go ahead. Thank you, Gabe, for the super chat. Go ahead, Dom.
What's up, Dom?
So I just go to Snowflake's website, and I go to their customer page.
Dom, I was doing the same exact thing. I was like, dude,
hold on.
yeah.
And I'm not trying to, maybe conflict does good on YouTube. I don't know.
No, conflict.
I just have to say, like, when I look at it, I got Adobe, DocuSign, DoorDash, Kraft Heinz.
Okay, I was wrong.
The S&P Global Market Intelligence Company uses Snowflake. McKesson, ICE, Logitech, HP, like Fitbit. So, I mean, they have 7,000 customers. They have big customers. I get your point, because I agree with you that they are building stuff that others can't in verticals and solving problems, real world problems in industries. My only concern, and I still love them, is just that how fast can they figure out the go-to-market with sales before someone else builds a crap product that's good enough, but they're already entrenched in Logitech, Okta, Yamaha, all these companies, and they're already hooked in. They've already seen value in some of the small different features that they've been sold to Snowflake or Databricks or Microsoft. And they're like, yeah, your product's great, but I'm so entrenched in here, and they're making good enough stuff like Microsoft has done for so many years. And now they're trying to pitch their whole data fabric thing. That's my only concern. But I'm still super bullish, still long. Would love to hear your rebuttal on that if you have the same concerns or don't, because you've used it. So you have the best experience out of anyone here. You've used the product. I would love to hear just your take.
But I'm biased. In that same sentence, I'm biased because I've used Palantir, but I haven't used Snowflake. And so I would love to chime in and be like, oh, Snowflake is garbage. But at the same time, I don't have the experience of helping build an oil and gas operating system around data like I do with Palantir, because I helped do that in 2017.
Well, and I don't think Snowflake can do that yet, right? Like, so
I don't know.
When I watched Pipeline Builder, and I've talked with Dorian, who's CodeStrap, we had this great dialogue offline about versus Databricks. He has a great video that goes Databricks versus Palantir. I think he's even done one for Snowflake, and there's definitely certain things that they just can't do that Palantir's already created that adds so much value and save time to value. When you're developing applications and you're ultimately what you're trying to get is reduce time to value to get to a product out there as fast as possible that's stable and drives revenue. Like, that's what you're trying to do, is always speed up the developer without hiccups in security and get a great product out there that you can then build upon. And, with these other companies, they are just selling pieces of what Palantir can do, but they're getting people so excited about it, easy to use, easy to buy, easy to try. I'm like, when I was watching the Pipeline Builder video earlier today, I was like, why don't they have a freemium version of this? This is like, I was understanding the language they were putting out there and how this is so different, revolutionizing the CI/CD pipeline, and how developers don't have to go back and fix things at the beginning and refactor their application. I'm like, oh my gosh, this new product, Pipeline Builder, is so awesome. I've heard Coach Rack talk about how great it is. He wants to get his hands on it. But then the delivery and all the videos and everything was all engineering based. And I'm like, nobody. Now that I did just tweet, like right before we got on, I was so excited to hear that they were sponsoring, being a platinum sponsor at Pharma 2022. And I said, hey guys, that's what I want to see. I want to see you guys at RSA Security. I want to see you guys at Amazon's conference. I want to see all this stuff so people can understand how amazing your stuff is, but can you articulate it to where they can understand it? And so that's I'll beat my dead horse. That's my soapbox.
Yeah, and that's I'm 100% in agreement with Dom. That's the exact way that I would go with it. The other thing is, a lot of people are super critical with Snowflake, with the sales like team and stuff, right? Sales and marketing. But Snowflake and Frank Slootman understands that the first role of a company is to make sure that the sales are amazing, so that this way you get entrenched into the market, you grab as much market share as possible, and then you build on top of it, right? So that's the key right now, and that's what Snowflake is doing. If you look at their acquisition of Streamlit, you look at their acquisition of this new company called Applica. A lot of the features that Palantir has natively already, they're just buying. They're like, look, we could spend the next 4 years trying to research and do what Palantir does, or we can find a company that's doing something similar, buy them, integrate them, and now we have the same thing. But guess what we also have? We already have our tentacles in all of these companies already. So now all we have to do is upsell. Now, who does upselling? Sales reps, right? Right now, if I have a problem with any of my software products, I could just call my sales rep, be like, hey, dude, I'm having a problem, blah, blah, blah. Either they'll get me in touch with the right person, they'll get me, who I need to. And guess what happens? I always get a pitch about, why I should upgrade to the newest software version, right? Oh, you already have the enterprise client, why don't you guys just pay a little bit more and get upgraded? Okay, you know what? Let me call my CTO. Let's get upgraded to this new system. So that's the thing that I think Snowflake is doing really well, is that their go-to-market strategy is probably the thing that's beating Palantir. The other thing is Palantir is too focused on making bespoke products, right? Where they're very tailored to the organization. They require an FDE. That business model is not scalable. That's why you keep hearing about the modularization. But I haven't seen that modularization take impact yet, right? They haven't necessarily come out and put it out there to the point where everyone can explore it. And last but not least, that lack of developer community also means you have a lack of internal sources saying to their leadership, we need to get Palantir, right? That's the other problem. Because if you were to open source stuff, not open source, have a freemium tier, people use it. Like, let's say I use it, I see the value in it. I'll go to my CTO and say, look what I can do because of this product. I think we need to get it. And guess what? Now you just made that sales rep's life and job 10 times easier, because now they're not trying to hunt down clients. They're responding to clients coming to them. And Dom knows it. There's tons of people right now that have, hey, I have this problem. Dom, can you help me solve it? And Dom is like, yeah, I can help you solve it. Whereas if Dom just goes to someone's door and says, knock, 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 hey guys, are you having any problems? Dude, no, get out. So
that's like calling their baby ugly. Like, no one wants to admit that.
Yeah.
Even if they are having problems. The one piece that I would piggyback of what you're saying was, when I was watching this pipeline video, I'm just looking at all my screenshots I took of the video. I kept writing in bold, certification programs. If you get a certification program like Cisco had done, when we all know, Chris, you're in the industry, and Matt, you would understand this, with Cisco, it was all about being Cisco certified. That's how they had the networking switches and firewall industry, and still to this day they have a large portion of it. It was all about having your Cisco cert, and it was so much certification that had to go into it. Well, hey, we're so entrenched with this company, we don't want to lose our guy who's certified. If you get certification for your developers and your analysts and everything, now you have a path to, you don't need to charge $1 million for a forward deployed engineer. You can have the Accenture, the Deloitte, the AWS, the other third-party channel partners, the Caresoft, who they have partners with.
You do have Palantir certifications.
You do, but it's not widely advertised, and it's not on the full stack, and it's not commercialized to where, like, it could be a lot better and a lot easier to get that out to the masses.
Is there a lot of I don't know, so I'm asking.
It's a closed system where you have to have Palantir before you get the certification. Like right now, Matt, you could probably reach out to your sales rep and say, "Hey, can I get certified in Palantir Foundry for X, Y, and Z?" And they'll do it. They'll say, "Okay, you know what? Epic does the same thing with healthcare. Like I work in the hospital, so EMR right now, in order to get Epic certified, you have to have Epic as a product that your organization uses. There is one thing I want to say about channel partners that I think they might have had some miscalculation. Back, and this was something that I was reading with 0 to 1, and then I was also listening to a little bit of Slootman too when he talked about channel partners. Over-reliance on channel partners is not a good thing. You really should have an internal sales team because you get so much better customer feedback in what the clients are looking for, and you can tailor the product so that you'll have maximum effect of getting clients. Whereas if you are solely relying on channel partners, the channel partners are not going to be able to give you enough information about the client to the point where they'll end up, you'll be able to actually sell them, because the channel partners, they're gonna try to hit every avenue possible, but they're not gonna go granular. They're not gonna sit down and say, "Oh, what can Palantir do for you?" No, their job is to sell software, not sell Palantir.
But
so, yeah,
it does offer scale.
Yeah, it does offer scale.
You have to have both, right?
Yeah,
Microsoft has it. Snowflake has it. Pretty much.
Yeah.
My company has it, right?
Yeah.
We're actually primarily sold through the channel, right?
Yeah.
So, but I get what you're saying. You're spot on
Yeah.
about, both.
Yeah. So what it is
I have a silly question out of ignorance because I don't know. So you guys are talking a lot about. So hopefully it's a short question. You guys are talking a lot about modularization and being able to have freemium sort of trials and certifications. Does Snowflake and Databricks have those products very easily, or is it?
You could go get a Snowflake demo or trial right now. You could get a Databricks trial. They have conferences. They have a community. I mean, it is.
You can get certified regardless whether your organization uses them or not.
Yeah.
Like Microsoft even has like free versions where you can use like compute for free as long as you're a student. Like I was actually posting about that earlier today too. Like, so a lot of times everyone's go-to-market is going to be strategically important, right? AWS has stuff like that too, where you can get an EC2 and a S3 a certain amount for free, so that this way you can learn how to use AWS. So it's kind of like the same thing. Palantir does not have that at all. Like you can't just sign up and they give you, a Foundry instance. Like the only person, there's 3 people that have a Foundry instance outside of their clients that I know of. 1 is CodeStrap, 2 is Seattle Data Guy, and 3 I think is Alex from ticker symbol U. And CodeStrap is actively using it. What's his name? Seattle Data Guy has used it. Ben has used it for a couple of things, but he's making like more videos about it now. So just if you guys want to know what it's like, that's what you go with, and yeah.
But I guess there's one other thing to bring up, and this is the really interesting part when you pull back how Alex wants to run his business. You talked about the whole upsell model and about how traditionally in the software industry that I work in, traditional software is sold traditionally of the upsell. I get you something, the sales guy comes back and says, okay, what about this module? What about this thing? You look at Datadog, they have 16 different modules that they sell, and CrowdStrike, another one. All these different traditional software companies have that. It seems to me like Palantir is trying to just sell Foundry or Apollo or whatever it may be on these big 6, 5, 10, $50 million contracts, and they're saying this is how software should be sold because it works the first time we sell it. It gives you all the expansion. We're not going to come back and hit you with these upsells, and then you're going to pay us more only because your business is growing and thriving, and you're going to use more and more and more and more and more, and it's going to scale that way. And we're not going to be displaced because software, we're going to deliver the results that we say we're going to deliver, and you're going to see that very quickly. That's what it seems like to me listening to Karp talk about everything is like he always talks about how software is typically sold, And he's like, oh, well, that'll be displaced. You sell these crappy products, so it's one thing that it does, and then someone else comes out with the competing product, which is true. But there have also been companies that have done a great job of selling crappy products or good enough products, and they've entrenched themselves so much. And I keep going back to the Microsoft example because they got everybody on Office. I got you by the grips. You need email. You need Office productivity. Now I'm going to build an ecosystem out of that. And then they came with Teams. Teams is not better than Zoom. I don't care what anybody says, but it's good enough. And now all of a sudden I got you to an E5 agreement. Now you got to spend more money.
Well, not only that, but you're already using Microsoft 365. So,
exactly.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to give you the security product for free. And then when my company or another company goes to try to sell security, hey, I get your products better, but this is free. Like,
so so this is the whole premise that I don't think people understand. Isn't that the beauty of what, from my experience, Palantir has done? I get that you're not easily able to pick it up and things like, but they literally will sit with you for 6 months and say, what are the problems that you guys are trying to solve, and help build you.
That's what I thought was a good benefit to them.
Yeah. And that's what got me as an investor. So they are solving real problems quantifiably. They are able to provide real results and do things that Microsoft and others can't do because their products are just point solutions, doing little pieces here and there, not giving you,
what Microsoft is doing is they build a software. They said, here you go. If you want it,
you'll figure it out, right? Like, you're not able to do unstructured and structured data and everything together. And if you guys haven't watched that pipeline builder video, those in the chat, go watch it. I'm telling you, it'll get you excited about Palantir and what they're doing. But now what I want to see is, how can you make that more faster at scale and easier to digest and get people hooked? Because truly what they're building is better results of the technology they have. But the customers aren't there yet, which, Karp has said. Who knows? Maybe they already have it all figured out, and we just got to be a little more patient.
I don't care what Gabe says. Teams sucks. All right, I use Teams.
Yeah, dude, Zoom is way better. Whoever said that, get out.
Teams.
Of
here. Teams sucks.
The thing that bothers me most about Teams is, like, I'll open up. We have the Teams team that you try to go access different channels within your team to be able to go access files or something of the like. Next thing you know, somebody messages you, which I get probably 100 messages from 20 different people a day. You can't have that PowerPoint open and then open up that Teams chat, and then it'll close out the PowerPoint.
Teams couldn't have done what Zoom did for us during the pandemic. Period. End of story. Zoom built a better technology.
Anytime I get a Teams invite, I just tell them, no, cancel the invite. I'll send you a WebEx invite. WebEx is Cisco, which is very similar to Zoom. It's freaking amazing. I'll just send you a WebEx invite, and we'll do the meeting on there, because I'm not doing Teams. Like, half the time, Teams, like, people don't even, oh, God, even, like, how they connect from their name to, like, their actual, like, a desktop, and then the fucking phone number, and it looks like you have a bunch of random phone numbers in Teams versus all the others where you're actually synced up. Dude, Teams, oh God, I fucking hate Teams, man. It's you're giving me, like, fucking anxiety just talking about Teams.
Well, the stream is demonetized, so thank you, Gabe, for the super chat. You paid for today's show. All right. I think we're done. I don't know if there's any. We got through everything.
What do
the
you
conclusion
think?
is
You just did a lot of listening today.
Yeah,
I
don't think I've ever seen Amit this quiet ever. So what
you know what's happening? I think I'm actually coming down with a little bit of a cold. Like, the hint where you feel it in your throat, and I'm like I was on mute so long because I was coughing so much. I actually think it's coming down. It's been at least 8-9 months I haven't been sick, and I think it's coming back this time.
It's catching up to you.
Yeah. No, I'm waiting for Palantir to get to around 750 range. I'm really excited under 8 because I missed the last dip at 6 to 7. I thought the world was ending because JP Morgan told me we were going to 3,200. I was like, okay, I'll buy it at 3.4. Now I'm like, I don't give a fuck. And so under 7 or in the low 7s, very excited to buy.
I'm right there with you.
I would just listen to Gabe in this one rare instance where you should listen to Gabe. I
Sell
think
puts
he's
and
right.
Buy calls, or
No, just sell puts, sell seven. If because the thing is, like, it's really hard to time the market,
It
like,
is.
and you never know if it'll get to $7, dude. Right now, you could just sell the $7 put
Yeah,
and
check it
get
out.
$1 premium, and and then you don't have the regrets, right? If it gets to 7, great, you get assigned, yay. If you don't get assigned, yay, I get to keep $1 off of someone else's back. So, like I said, I would highly listen to Gabe on this one. I think the $7 put for 2023 is not a bad bet to make. If you are interested in Palantir, let me
Is
just
it
be
Jan
clear.
23? Is that what it is?
Yeah. I think it actually might be over
Oh,
$1
you're
today.
saying the 750. They don't have a $7. That's weird.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Is it the 750?
Yeah, 750.
Yeah.
Yep.
That means that your cost basis would be 650,
So,
which is under what you're looking at
I
right
honestly
now.
might do that. I wouldn't mind getting the 4,000 shares. So maybe I'll sell 6 contracts. I don't know.
how many,
Yeah.
Matt? What are you at? What, 34, 3,500?
3,400. Not a lot, but
3,400.
it's a lot for me. It's like I try
a
to
lot.
keep things less than 5% of my portfolio.
Gabe's like, I've never been wrong yet, asshole. I'm like, how do I fucking know? How do I know, Gabe? I fucking met you like 2 days ago. How the fuck do I know? I'm not your fucking portfolio manager. You could be telling me that you're the fucking next coming, bro. I don't fucking know.
I will say, for the people that are listening to this,
Chris, are you gonna?
go ahead. I was gonna say, for the people that listen to the audio, it's probably for the best, because I have definitely a face for radio. So
That's me too, apparently. Chris, are you gonna DCA more into Snowflake because you liked what you saw from the earnings, or you're done? Because the earnings were great.
I'm gonna wait. Like, dude, the pricing on it is a little high right now, so I am gonna DCA, but only DCA when it's below probably like 175, 150 ish. I think we're ready for some pullback too, right? Like, I think the general euphoria around Snowflake getting from freaking 150 to 200 in less than a month. Yeah. That's pretty crazy. Even though I had a good feeling that Snowflake was going to do well. There's times where you have to be opportunistic, right? And right now is a good time to be opportunistic with Snowflake. Unlike Palantir, which,
Chris, you taught me that. When companies go really high in a short amount of time, like, you got to take some off the table. And I was always against that because I felt like, well, I love this company. Why should I do that if I'm all in? It's just common sense. Like, I did it for the first time ever with the trade desk. It went up 40% in like a matter of like 2 days, and I had to take some off because I was like, no company gets even Snowflake 20% in a day. Like, it's gonna retrace back.
Yeah, and once it retraces, you buy a little bit more. I mean, I think if you have a winner and it's done really well, take some off the table. If anything, you should take some off the table and buy some calls. If I go up, let's say 50% on a stock, screw it, sell half of it and maybe use 15% of the return, right? Pocket the rest, put it in your pocket, buy some long-term leaps so that just in case that uptrend continues, you have the ability to buy back in at a fixed price, right? And now you're happy again. So all these things you develop as you trade and you learn and you do investing.
Chris, are you buying, or is anyone buying the Tesla stock split? I bought 1 share of Tesla last week.
I keep building my Tesla piece. I totally am confident. Like, I want that to be a top 3 for me. I think it's like number 4 right now. What they're doing, there's just so much revenue optionality that's going to be coming that people aren't talking about. Like, that Tesla's so misunderstood. So,
Matt, are you in Tesla?
He's on mute.
I am not in Tesla.
Are you? Did you make money off Tesla ever?
Only through options. I would sell some puts on when they would have really big down days, but this was probably in 2021 when it was pre-split, pre-split, because I guess it just did the split. I would sell in the 300 to 400 range. Once it got up to the 800, 900s, my portfolio just couldn't handle it. Those are just too big of contracts.
So now you don't have to go into it, but now you feel that they're still a little pricey at the $300 mark. Is that kind of why you're not?
After the split, yeah. For me, I think I just don't I agree. They do have the optionality and a lot of revenue coming their way with a lot of different ways. Full self-driving, taxis, all that. I get that. Potentially, when Joel was on the channel the other day talking about the robots and stuff that they might be able to produce, I see that potentially as well. But I think the problem is, and I've had on a previous stream that I used to do on Friday nights, argue with somebody that doesn't think that GM, Mercedes, all those great car companies have a product, and they're already on the road. Cybertruck's still on the road. You have the Ford Lightning on the road. You have the Hummer on the road.
But the difference is in how their profits. So I'll leave you with this. So
yeah, they have higher margin for sure.
So well, they have perfected manufacturing in the automobile industry. So Barron, who's a big backer of Tesla and Elon, was on CNBC this week and said, all I have to say is this. Every time Elon invests in a new gigafactory, $7 billion, $8 billion, whatever it is, right around there, and they're making $15,000 of profit on every single car that comes out of that factory, they end up having 1.5, was it not trillion? I guess 1.5 billion. I'm getting my math off. 15 billion in profit versus 7 billion. They're netting $8 billion with every factory every year in what they're producing in cars. There's no other car company that can do that because of the way they have their vertical manufacturing built.
Yeah, I think electric cars are easy to copy. It's the platform that's really hard, right? That's the problem. Like, you can make another Tesla. Like, dude, it's easy to slap on 4 wheels, an electric motor, blah, blah, blah. The problem is, how are you going to copy all the factories that, produce it? How are you going to copy the battery technology? How are you going to copy the other designs, the AI part of it? How are you going to copy, so it's really hard to copy everything that Tesla does. You could do 1, 2, 3 things, but it's really hard to copy everything. It's the same thing with Apple. Like, dude, you're telling me the Chinese can't figure out a way to just re-engineer an Apple phone and make it the same exact thing? No, but the value proposition to Apple is that there's a goddamn entire ecosystem that now you're tied into. Right now, I would love to buy a cheaper Android, but everyone in my family uses an iPhone, and now I'm an Apple guy because my entire family's an Apple person. So I don't know. It's just
they just launched a software update that your seat belts will know when to tighten upon a crash for safety issues, as well as when to deploy the airbag ahead of a crash, providing less injuries than when an airbag normally just goes off upon impact. Like, I'd love to hear GM or Tesla or GM or Ford say that they could do that. So.
But then it goes back to what you're talking about with Microsoft, right? Is do people actually care about those things, or would they rather buy a cheaper
for sure? I think when they start evangelizing that kind of stuff, and once they are more considered, mass market, that they're producing as many vehicles as Ford and stuff, I guarantee you that stuff will matter.
I will say one thing about Tesla, though, and I think a lot of people, because Chris always has to make that one controversial statement.
Here it comes.
I love the Tesla, the cars, but I fucking hate Tesla investors. Y'all are some fucking cult following people. Like, if Saint Elon came down and said, I got this Kool-Aid that everyone needs to start drinking, it's going to be fucking delicious, half the fucking planet would die.
You can't say all Tesla investors, though. You have to say just like...
Okay, I'm sorry. Let me rephrase. 99.8% of Tesla investors who are fucking drinking the Elon Kool-Aid, y'all got to get off the goddamn cult train, bro. You guys are worse than the Scientologists.
My Cowboys. He says he hates all Cowboys fans because they're all cult following. They always think they're going to win the Super Bowl. I've been a Cowboys fan for 30 years, and I know we're not good.
Great. Here, look. Here's an example of a fucking Elon fanboy over here. Go ahead. Shill for your master. Shill for Father Elon. Go ahead. See, Dom? You are exactly like the rest of them, dude.
Me?
Yeah, I'm just kidding, man. I'm just kidding.
Well, I'm not. Hey, I show me someone who can provide better free cash flow, margins, and optionality, and
I'm sure Father Elon would be very impressed by those numbers, Dom.
Hey,
I'm gonna call him Father Elon.
He's doing it right. There's not many like him.
I'm just saying, like, Sometimes
And
people
to
get
me, that's why they don't spend money on advertising, right?
no. There's also there's like back. I don't know if there's that many people that do Apple anymore, but dude, back in the day, people were Apple people too. Like they would be religious about their iPhone. Like it could be like, oh, I'm gonna make a pilgrimage to my Apple store this week. Like, bro, what the? Did you guys? There's this movie. I forgot what it was called. It was something with like moon Nazis or some shit. But one of the premises of their little cult following was that they all prayed to like the memory of Steve Jobs. Like people were fucking like Steve Jobs was died and people were crying, oh my god, my next Apple iPhone won't come out on time. Like, dude, I just like I said, I hate anyone that has like a cult following behind it. Right? Any company that gets super culty. Dude, y'all investors are a little too crazy. Even Palantir is like that too, a little bit.
Oh yeah. I mean, I guess what would you define as super culty, or like what makes someone a culty investor? I guess I would just.
It's when you criticize the company for anything, you have an army of simps just come out and be like, you're totally wrong because Alex Karp's hair is delicious, or Elon Musk is never wrong. Elon is, you see all the Tesla stuff that just came out. Like, did you know anything about robotaxis? Like, dude.
Yeah, so it's not, you're not able to openly criticize and have criticism. Yeah, I would agree with that. That's never a good thing. You look at Tom Nash, how he talks about Palantir. I criticize Palantir. You look at how you've talked about them, and you look at others who talk about Tesla. There are things where they make mistakes. They have misforecasts. They have issues with sometimes even what Elon does. But overall, I think that there's very few CEOs that drive. I mean, he's like the perfect story of an American story of what he's done.
So right there, go ahead, Dom. Tell us more about Elon Musk. Go ahead. Go ahead.
The best CEOs that's ever been around.
See, Father
Elon.
You are definitely a lifelong member of the Father Elon fan club, man.
You don't think he's a great CEO?
I think he's a great. I'm just kidding, guys. I think he's a great CEO. He knows what he's doing. He definitely knows what he's doing. He's a true operator, right? I think that's one of the keys that we have to remember. Like I said, I'm just joking around. Don't send fucking Tesla hate my way. All right.
How are we getting people pissed off about Tesla? I think he just likes pissing people off.
Chris was always meant to be a TV personality. He knows what
dude.
I know, man. I need to get this guy stand-up comedy TV.
I'm just saying, dude. I'm telling you, Elon is like the perfect person to troll.
Elon got hoes in different areas. Yeah, and I will say there's a lot of that going around.
that is very true.
Yeah.
Well,
here's
what he put out on Twitter the other day? He said population decline is worse than global warming.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe.
Who else can't we criticize? Who else is another one of those like super famous people that if you criticize, like automatically, like you'll have 100 people come after you?
Beyonce.
You think so? Beyonce? Really?
Beyonce's Queen Bee, I think they call them. Cult is big. LeBron James, he's there.
Yeah.
Nah, dude. I've seen plenty of people lampoon LeBron James, dude. Especially after his like bromance with the Chinese. I don't think LeBron. I really don't know much about Beyonce either, to be honest with you. Like, Taylor Swift. I thought Taylor Swift fans were kind of crazy.
Yeah. You can't criticize her. You'll get killed.
Yeah.
No,
all right.
I appreciate
we got to end it there.
What
do you say, Dom?
I said I appreciate everyone watching us this late, and it was fun talking. We definitely can't wait to do this again next week.
Yeah, I appreciate everyone. Everyone's links are in the description, so please check out Matt, Dom, and Chris's YouTube. They're all there. 200 people. Thank you for being with us. 12 a.m. Friday night. Appreciate it. Saturday morning now, so happy Saturday. And yeah, get through the week. Hopefully it's okay. We might have some more pain next week, but we'll see what happens. See you next week.
Right.
Friday.
Take care, everyone. Have a good one.
Bye, guys.